versus your other options. Depends on your viewpoint on sales tax. If you buy a truck through Crete or by Crete, then you don't pay sales tax. Nebraska has a rule that if you are leased on with a big box carrier like Crete or Warner's another one, it's headquartered in Lincoln, um, you don't pay sales tax. That's a big deal because if, for example, you were to pay sales tax in Texas, that could be as high as 8%. On an $80,000 truck, that's $6,400 in sales tax. Yeah, I don't know what each driver's financial situation is, but I'm not really in a spot where I could just say, okay, here's $6,400 for no reason. you know, uh, I would prefer to hang on to that $6,400. So I would take a hard look at purchasing a truck through Crete. Now, you could say, okay, maybe you like a different truck other than what Crete has to offer. Well, Crete, does have a low mileage truck. I mean, the truck is of value to begin with. Typically it has 400,000 miles. It'll come with the 7-year, 700 or 750,000 mile warranty, the EN4 Daimler warranty, which is excellent, excellent. So you are getting good value there. You're getting a low mileage, 400,000, and you're getting the warranty, and you're not having to pay the sales tax, which is itself worth upwards of $6,400 based on $80,000 truck. Uh, so I think for the bang for the buck, the value is there. Now, you can go look at other trucks, but another thing Crete does is they get the truck prepped. It's ready to go from day one when you buy it. They'll take the DPF filters out and clean those, put them back in. They'll put decent tires on. They're not the greatest. They'll put retreads on the drives. They'll call them virgin retreads, but they're still retread. They're freshly retread tires, but they're not virgin tires. Although they call them virgin retread tires. I don't know why they do that. But they do put virgin steer tires on. So that's good. The truck is professionally cleaned, and it has a DOT inspection, maybe a B1 service. So it's ready to go. It's going to be in a pretty good running order. Now you can compare that to other trucks from dealer lots or from truckpaper.com and try to see what the bang for the buck is. But keep in mind, those other trucks don't come with that warranty. That warranty in and of itself is worth several $1,000s. And let's say you find a similar truck on truckpaper.com or the Truck Paper app, commercial truck trader app. It has 400,000 miles. I doubt they're going to beat Crete on the price. They'll probably be about $10,000 higher on price. Even on a dealer lot, a similar mileage truck could be $10,000 more in price. So then it's like, well, why wouldn't I buy a truck from Crete? I mean, really, what's the big incentive not to buy a truck from Crete, other than, like, say, the financing? Now, the financing through Crete, that's the big one for me. It's because they charge a higher interest rate. Right now, it's over 10%. So it's high, especially for me, because my credit score is over 800. And they don't negotiate rates. This is what they're charging, and there's no negotiating. It's like, okay. And they have you do a required maintenance account. So you could have, tens of thousands of dollars locked up in that maintenance account that you don't have control over. They have control over it. And they put a speed limit on your truck. So that's the drawback of financing through Crete. But I actually reached out to Currency Financial, and they have a network of 30 lenders they work with. And so one of their lenders contacted me the other day called H.I.L, H-I-L, which I guess is pretty common, for truck purchases. And they finance up to like $75,000. And the truck costs, for 2022, it costs $79,000 and change. But I would put like a $10,000 deposit. So then I would meet all the loan requirements for the truck. See, having a loan outside of Crete removes that required maintenance account, removes the speed limiter, and you can leave Crete whenever you want, because truck's not financed through Crete. And with H.I.L Financial, I I don't know what my interest rate's going to be yet, but they pulled my Equifax credit report, and they said my score was 831. So that qualifies me for their best rate. So I would expect it to be below 10%, probably closer to 6.5%. So you could save, thousands of dollars on the interest rate on the loan. Plus, you're not going to pay sales tax because, again, you're buying from Crete, which is headquartered in Nebraska. So you on that truck, just from the sales tax and from financing it outside of Crete, you could save. Boy, I tell you, you could probably save anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000 on the cost of that truck, just by going that route, because you're not paying high interest and you're not paying sales tax. Now, the thing with the sales tax is that uh, you get it because you're with a carrier, but also because the dispatching comes from that state, Nebraska, and the record keeping comes from that state, Nebraska. So Crete will often say your home terminal as an owner operator is Lincoln, Nebraska, even though you may be in Georgia. You may go home and park your truck in Marietta, Georgia. Your home terminal is not Marietta, Georgia. It's Lincoln, Nebraska, because that's where the records are kept, and that's what's required in order to qualify for the exemption on sales tax. Now, if you want to claim Georgia as your home state, then you'll have to pay Georgia sales tax, which is not something you want to do. So, like my business is registered as LLC in Texas. Texas has like 8% sales tax. I mean, it would be $6,400 for me to buy a truck in Texas and register it in Texas. You know, I would be better off buying the truck from Crete, registering the truck in Nebraska, which they allow, and not have to pay that sales tax. It saves me $6,400 to have that Nebraska license plate on my truck. Now, oftentimes I take my home time in Texas, but Wilmer is not my home terminal. It's my home terminal is Lincoln, because that's where all the records are being kept. And you only qualify for this because if you're involved in interstate commerce, and because all the record keeping is kept in Nebraska. If it was kept in Texas, then that would be a different story. So it gets kind of complicated. I'll see if I can find some links and put it in the description when we're done. But they look at where's the place of record for, uh, you know, fuel tax reporting and all kinds of criteria. All the wonky stuff that goes into the tax code and interstate commerce. So I'll try to find some links and put it in the comment section when we're done. But when you think about all your options for purchasing a truck, you oftentimes will find a truck that you like. Like, say you go find yourself a Kenworth or a Peterbilt. Okay, you really like that truck. Okay, and then you look at the price of the truck, and it might be book value or maybe a little bit higher than book value, depending on the market, the supply and demand in the market. And then you add the cost of sales tax on top of that. See, like in Texas, for example, the dealership is not required to pay the sales tax. They'll say you pay sales tax when you go register your truck and get your license plate. So that's something you want to keep in mind. You're like, okay, I'll finance a truck for 80,000. Then you go to get it licensed, and then you got to pay another 6,400 because now you're going to pay the sales tax on that truck. The dealer didn't pay it. They gave a couple examples, like if you trade your truck into a dealer in Texas, say the truck is $80,000, you trade a truck in, and the truck value is $20,000. Well, they'll reduce your tax liability by the value of the trade-in. So if the truck you're purchasing is 80, your trading value is 20, and you take a loan out for 60, then you pay sales tax on that 60. But if you buy the truck through Crete in Nebraska, you don't pay any sales tax. Difference between states. I even looked at see what Freightliner in Lincoln, Nebraska had on their lot. And they had similar trucks to Crete, mileage and year and similar price. But, by the time you add on the cost of the warranty, you're right there at the same price level as Crete, and maybe even more. So it's like, well, you really are going to struggle to try to find a better deal than the price of that Crete truck. You could probably find trucks lower price, but they'll have higher mileage. And then you got to start thinking, okay, well, this truck has 50,000 more miles on it, but it costs $5,000 less. Well, what would you rather have? The lower mileage truck or a lower price on a higher mileage truck? I would rather have the lower mileage truck. Me personally. Lower mileage means less maintenance, less downtime. You know, there's a cost associated with that downtime. Even if it is under warranty, you're still not generating revenue. So I would prefer the lower mileage truck. So when I compare all my options, it's really, really hard to find a better deal than what you're going to find purchasing a truck from Crete for the bang for the dollar. The key would be is if you can get financing outside of Crete. I think that would be the optimal. That would be like, okay, I'm going to buy the Crete truck, but I'm not going to finance it through Crete because I don't want to get tied up in that maintenance account, and I don't want to get tied up with that speed limiter and not be able to leave until that loan is paid off. So the best of both worlds be buy the truck from Crete, but finance it from somewhere else. So that's what my current plan is. Plan's always subject to change. But with a credit score of 831, I really think I'm going to get a good interest rate financing it somewhere else other than Crete. I may only end up with a 6.5% interest rate rather than paying 10% or 11%. So not paying sales tax plus having a lower interest rate, that could be upwards of a $10,000 savings. So that's what's really the draw for me. That's significant. When you think about the Crete Truck Purchase Program, it's really designed for rookies. I mean, that's ultimately what it's designed for. It's designed for the company driver to become an owner operator. And in that regards, it's a good program because you can't, as a rookie, you can't go out and get truck financing. No one's going to give you a loan because you don't have any experience. They often require at least 2 years of owner-operator experience before they even consider you for a truck loan. So what's good is that the carrier is willing to give you a truck loan. However, because you don't have any experience, they're going to require you to have that required maintenance account. And they're going to charge you a higher interest rate. They're not going to do it for free. You're gonna have some strings attached. It's a good program for rookies, but for a seasoned owner operator like myself, with 9 years experience going on the third truck, that financing through Crete is a pain in the ass. Something that we would prefer not to have. Because we don't need required maintenance accounts. It's good. Like, I don't need you to manage my money. I can do it myself. I don't need a speed limiter. That's another nanny feature. And I don't need this, restriction on my freedom to come and go whenever I please. If I want to stay with you, I'll stay with you. But, I don't want this obligation to stay until the truck is paid off if I want to decide to leave carriers. The carrier may do something stupid one day and I'll be like, it's time for me to go. And if you got your loan through them, then you can't leave until the loan is paid off. So the best case scenario is buy the Crete truck, finance it somewhere else. If you do that, you combine the no sales tax and a lower interest rate, you could save upwards of $10,000. All right, guys, that's all I got for you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the internet.